On a cool Friday evening along the misty California coast, an engaged couple seemingly vanished into the night, leaving behind a beach house full of laughter, 2 untouched glasses of champagne, and no sign of struggle. For 5 long years, authorities clung to a simple explanation: a tragic accident, perhaps a moonlit swim gone wrong. The dangerous currents of the Pacific have claimed many lives before, but the truth was far from simple. It began again on an ordinary morning with an extraordinary discovery. A recreational diver exploring a coral reef off Monterey's coast spotted a flash of bright yellow wedged deep within the reef wall. Curious, he swam closer. It was a waterproof case, intact, perfectly sealed. What he pulled from it would shake the foundation of everything believed about the disappearance of Meredith Caldwell and David Langston. Fog blanketed San Francisco as Janine Caldwell stirred her 3rd cup of coffee. Her eyes glazed over a spreadsheet she'd seen a dozen times before. At 35, she had crafted a structured life as a financial analyst, a world of numbers and logic that protected her from memories she wasn't ready to confront. Her sister Meredith had vanished 5 years ago, and not a single day passed without her wondering what really happened. Then the call came. "Ms. Caldwell, this is Detective Raymond Flores from the Monterey County Sheriff's Office." Janine's hand gripped the phone. Her heartbeat spiked, the name Flores suddenly dragging her into a past she'd tried to outpace. "I'm calling about your sister's case. A diver recovered something this morning, about 300 yards from the beach house. We need your help identifying it." "What did they find?" she asked, masking her panic with practiced calm. "A yellow waterproof phone case, wedged in coral. The diver turned it into our Marine Patrol. I'll leave now." The drive down Highway 101 passed in a blur of coastal views and echoing thoughts. She remembered Meredith and David as they were, young, magnetic, and deeply in love. The beach house had buzzed with celebration that weekend. Champagne corks had flown, and waves crashed just beyond the deck. Then silence. A void. As she pulled into the weather-worn marina station, the smell of salt and diesel clawed at her memory. Detective Flores was waiting, a man in his 50s, lined by time and hardened by stories he'd had to tell too many grieving families. "Thanks for coming," he said gently, leading her down tight hallways. The walls whispered of loss. Inside the sterile evidence room, a yellow case rested open on a steel table. The contents were laid out carefully. Janine's breath caught. There it was, Meredith's iPhone, its rose gold case glimmering like new. And beside it, a small white plastic object that shattered her composure. A pregnancy test. Her knees buckled, and Flores offered her a chair. "She was pregnant," Janine whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "That's what we're trying to confirm. The phone still works. These cases are surprisingly resilient." He pressed the power button. The lock screen lit up. Meredith laughing in the ocean wind, David holding her like nothing else in the world mattered. Janine choked on a sob. "I took that photo," she murmured, "at their engagement party, 3 months before they vanished." Flores nodded, solemn. There were messages from that evening. Nothing strange. No panic, no talk of leaving. But the pregnancy test, well, that changes things. Most people don't protect negative results in a waterproof case. Janine's mind reeled. Meredith hadn't said anything. They spoke every week. She would have shared this. Or would she? "Pregnancy is a turning point," Flores said softly. "We need to look at everything again. Relationships, plans, anyone who might have known." "You think someone did this?" Janine asked, her voice thick. "We never ruled anything out, but with this, it's no longer just a disappearance." As she left the station, the weight of revelation pressed on her like a stone on her chest. Meredith had been carrying a child. She wasn't just a missing sister, she was an expectant mother. That changed everything. The 20-minute drive from Monterey to Carmel felt eternal. The coastal highway curved along cliffs and through windswept groves, every bend tightening the noose of memory. She hadn't been back since the memorial. There were no bodies to bury, just petals cast to the sea. The beach house rose into view. Weathered but standing proud, it looked untouched by time. Purple salvia and orange poppies bloomed in defiance, just as Meredith had planted them. A ghost of joy in full color. Harold, the caretaker, stepped out before she could cut the engine. Older now, his face was a map of years spent braving the elements. But his eyes held the same quiet respect. "Miss Janine," he said, removing his gloves. His voice cracked with something heavier than age. "Didn't expect to see you again." Neither did she. But the past had finally surfaced, and it was time to face what had been buried, by water, by time, and by the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, the story wasn't over yet. It had been years, but the sound of gravel under tires and the salt-touched wind made everything feel dangerously close to yesterday. Harold's voice carried the same quiet weight as before. "Been a long time." "Hello, Harold," Janine replied, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "The place looks beautiful." He nodded, pride glowing faintly in his weathered face. "Mr. Marcus Ashford makes sure of that. Pays me every month like clockwork. Says we've got to keep it ready, just in case." His voice trailed off, unfinished hope lingering in the silence. Janine's throat tightened. "That's very generous of him." Harold's eyes softened. "He's a good man. Honoring David's memory like that. Comes down himself, sometimes. Makes sure nothing's changed. It hasn't been easy on him either. Losing his best friend and business partner." Janine touched the key in her pocket, the one she never had the heart to throw away. "I need to go inside, just for a little while." "Of course. You take all the time you need. I'll be right out here." As she opened the front door, a wave of memories engulfed her. The scent of ocean air mingled with lavender and lemon polish. Nothing had changed. Meredith's curated coastal charm still lived here. White, slip-covered sofas, driftwood accents, abstract paintings echoing the sea. It was all so pristine, as if frozen in time, waiting for its owners to return. She drifted room to room, the quiet so complete, it felt sacred. Sea glass sparkled in a bowl on the kitchen counter. The refrigerator still hummed dutifully, although long emptied. In the dining room, the table was eerily set for 6, a dinner party that had never come. Upstairs, the master bedroom door stood ajar. The bed was made in that signature meticulous way Meredith loved. Pillow placement exact, corners folded tight. Lavender sachets infused the air with calm. Janine moved methodically. Nightstands, dresser, each drawer untouched. In the walk-in closet, rows of dresses hung in perfect color order. Her fingers brushed soft cotton, lace, denim, all silent echoes of a life once full of motion. The shoes remained, elegant and unworn. Janine's heart ached. Then, beneath a pile of scarves in the lowest drawer, her hand found something firm. A journal, familiar, leather-bound. She had gifted it to Meredith one Christmas, back when everything still felt infinite. With trembling hands, Janine sat on the bed, opening the cover. At first, the entries were scattered, lighthearted. Notes on wedding venues. David's failed attempts at soufflé. Laughter caught in ink. Then came the final week. Monday. The test was positive. 3, actually. I had to be sure. David doesn't know yet. I'm terrified and thrilled. We were going to wait until after the wedding, until the company stabilized. But maybe this is fate telling us to leap. Tuesday. David came home exhausted. Another fight with Marcus. M wants to expand. London, Tokyo, all at once. The numbers terrify me. David says it's reckless. I heard them yelling. Marcus said David was holding him back. David said Marcus only cares about profit now. 10 years of friendship unraveling. Wednesday. Still haven't told David. I need to wait for the right moment. Maybe Friday's dinner. Marcus will be there. Maybe this baby can help heal them. Maybe they'll remember what matters. Thursday, David spoke to a lawyer. He's thinking of buying Marcus out or being bought out himself. My heart broke listening. I started planning the announcement, bought a tiny onesie. It says, "Coming soon." I'll wrap it in a gift box. Please, let this bring peace. Friday, tonight's the night. I'm praying the news brings them together. David keeps asking why I'm nervous. If only he knew. By tomorrow, everything will be different. Janine clutched the journal to her chest, hot tears sliding silently down her cheeks. The journal pulsed with hope, with fear, with all the fragile weight of someone trying to hold everyone together. A knock startled her. Harold appeared in the doorway. "Just checking in. Water? Tea?" "I'm okay, Harold. Just looking for closure." He nodded, eyes heavy with shared grief. "I'll be outside. Just holler if you change your mind." Alone again, Janine stared at the journal. Meredith had gone into that dinner full of dreams. A baby, a healing moment, a future. But none of it had come to pass. And now the journal, like a sealed confession, placed new weight on Janine's shoulders. Then, the sound of a car. Through the window, she saw a sleek black Tesla ease into the drive. Its polished body caught the afternoon light. Even before he stepped out, she knew who it was. Marcus Ashford, still sharply dressed, still effortlessly composed. His hair, darker than David's, had silvered just slightly at the temples, but the same intensity lived in his eyes. She met him at the porch, her emotions a maelstrom. "Janine, my God, I didn't know you were in town." His voice was warm, his embrace enveloping her in cologne and the distant comfort of familiarity. "Hello, Marcus," she said, stepping back. "I was just—" She gestured inside. He followed her gaze. "God, it's like stepping into the past." She motioned to the living room, settling onto the couch. He sat across from her, posture just a little too guarded. "There's been a development." He tensed. "A diver found Meredith's phone in a waterproof case near the reef." His face paled. "Her phone!" "With something else," Janine said softly. "A pregnancy test." His breath caught. "What?" She was pregnant. The silence between them was thick, stretching wider than the ocean outside. "The police are reopening the investigation." Janine didn't blink. She was watching, and Marcus, still silent, looked back at her, but this time, something in his expression shifted, and it was no longer the house that felt haunted. Marcus leaned back against the teak railing, his hand running through his hair in that same restless gesture Janine remembered from years ago, a silent signal that he was grappling with something heavy. "Jesus," he muttered. "I had no idea." She never said anything. Janine offered a lifeline of distraction. "Would you like some water, or maybe just air?" "The deck," he nodded. "That sounds perfect." They stepped into the sunlight where the ocean painted itself in vivid strokes of turquoise and navy. The deck remained untouched by time, the same teak table where they'd laughed over lobster rolls, the loungers where Meredith would escape with a novel and glass of chilled white wine. Marcus stood at the edge, gripping the railing. That weekend was supposed to be a celebration. David and I had just closed the biggest contract in our company's history, TechSoft. We worked 18-hour days for weeks to make it happen. He glanced back at Janine. "She told you about the dinner party?" Janine nodded. "She said she had an announcement to make." "Yeah, I figured it was something about the wedding, a venue or honeymoon plan. I drove in that Friday around 7:30. Lights were on, both their cars parked. I knocked, rang the bell. Nothing." His expression darkened. "No keys on the hook. David always hung them by the door. I assumed they went out, maybe had a private celebration first. They were like that, still madly in love after 3 years." "So you left?" "I waited until 9. Called them both. No answer. Texted to let them know I'd try again in the morning. Grabbed dinner in town, figured I'd catch them at breakfast. Saturday was packed with meetings in the city. I texted David about our usual Sunday golf round. We had a standing tea time at Pebble. When I didn't hear from him by Sunday morning, I knew something was wrong. David never missed golf, ever. He paused, the rhythm of the waves filling the silence. I drove back here. Everything looked normal, except they were gone. I called the police immediately. They told me to wait 24 hours, but that storm rolled in Sunday night. Janine stepped beside him, her voice quiet. I found Meredith's journal. She was planning to announce the pregnancy at that dinner. She thought maybe it would heal things between you and David. About the business. Marcus stiffened. What do you mean, heal things? She wrote about tension, disagreements over your international expansion plans, the debt, the risk. He stared out at the horizon. Meredith never told me she was pregnant. God, that poor child. His voice caught. It sounded real. It felt real. But something about the way he said it, Janine couldn't explain it, set her nerves on edge. I'm sorry, Marcus said after a moment. This must be overwhelming. Is there anything I can do? I'm still trying to process everything, she replied. He turned to face her, earnest. I want you to know, I've tried to honor their memory. Innovate Tech expanded. We reached London, Tokyo, just like I envisioned, but I never forgot who helped build it. I created the Meredith and David Foundation. We fund scholarships for young entrepreneurs. That's generous, Janine said, uncertain how to feel. It's what they would have wanted. He glanced at his phone. I'm in town all week. If you need help, legal stuff, arrangements, or just someone to talk to, call me. Harold has my number. As he walked away, she studied him. The poised executive, the grieving friend, the generous benefactor. He played every role perfectly. And yet, something in her gut twisted. Thank you, Marcus, she called as he reached the door. For everything. He stopped, looking back with somber grace. They were family. It's the least I could do. After the sleek black Tesla disappeared into the winding coastal road, Janine remained on the deck. The ocean roared below, relentless and eternal. She replayed the conversation in her mind, every gesture, every pause. Marcus had said all the right things, felt all the right things. So why did it feel like theater? She needed space to think. Driving to the marina, she parked near the harbor, an endless forest of sails and rigging stretching before her. The familiar scent of brine and diesel clung to the air, instantly taking her back to summers learning to sail with Meredith and their father. She passed the harbor master's office and the old public pier, where tourists tossed crackers to gulls and old men swapped fishing tails. The yacht club restaurant loomed ahead, blue and white awnings dancing in the breeze. Miss Janine? A woman emerged from the side of the building, dressed in server's black slacks and a crisp white blouse. She looked around cautiously. Yes? I'm Elena, Harold's wife. I've wanted to speak to someone for a long time, but Harold, he said it wasn't our business. Speak about what? Elena motioned her to follow. Behind a boat trailer, hidden from the road, she whispered, That night, when your sister disappeared, I was closing the restaurant. A wedding had run late. It was near 2 a.m. when I walked to my car. Janine's breath hitched. What did you see? Mr. Ashford's cabin cruiser, leaving the private dock near your sister's house. Running lights on, someone at the helm. Janine's pulse quickened. Why's that strange? Because earlier, around 9:30, he was at our bar. He had a whiskey. Told the bartender David and Meredith never showed. He acted surprised, said they must have gone out. But then, at 2 a.m., his boat is heading out. Did you tell anyone? I wanted to. When police started asking questions, I told Harold. He said I must be mistaken, that it was dark, could have been any boat. But you're sure? Elena's eyes burned. I know boats. My father was a fisherman. That was Ashford's Sea. I'd know her silhouette in a hurricane. She hesitated, lowering her voice. But what could I do? Mr. Ashford paid Harold's salary, helped with his surgery, gave us loans. Harold said if I caused trouble without proof, we'd lose everything. A truck rolled into the lot. Elena turned pale. That's Harold. Please, don't tell him I said anything. He's not a bad man, just afraid. She slipped away as Harold parked near the marina office. Janine stood frozen, heart pounding. The timeline was broken. Marcus hadn't left at 9. He'd been at the dock at 2 in the morning. Before doubt could whisper her into inaction, Janine climbed into her car. She drove the short distance to Cannery Row, where Marcus once mentioned keeping his boat. The old sardine factories had become shops and cafes, but boathouses still hugged the end of the waterfront. She found his, easily, modern, neat, with Ashford Marine, printed discreetly on a plaque. The main doors were closed. A side entrance stood ajar. She stepped inside. Marcus? Hello? The space was dim, filtered sunlight cutting through high windows. It smelled of salt, oil, and varnish. Everything was too neat, too controlled. Janine moved forward, drawn by something she couldn't name, only feel. Something in this place knew the truth, and she was done being afraid to find it. Inside the boathouse, everything was orderly. Tool racks mounted with precision, boat parts lined on shelves like surgical instruments. A long workbench stood ready for maintenance tasks, smelling faintly of oil and salt. But it was the corner stack that drew Janine's attention. Industrial-strength tarps, the heavy-duty kind used in construction. Above them sat gallon containers of cleaning chemicals, their labels worn but the scent unmistakable. Bleach. Her stomach twisted. The smell was overpowering, acrid, and absolute. Janine? She spun, startled. Marcus stood in the doorway, his expression calm but surprised. I'm sorry, she stammered, guilt flushing her cheeks. The door was open. I just wanted to thank you again for taking such good care of the house. Marcus smiled, his demeanor warm. He walked inside and flipped on the overhead lights. No need to apologize. I should keep it locked, but the maintenance guys are always in and out. He followed her gaze. Impressive collection, huh? Boat upkeep is no joke. Janine eyed the tarps again. Those look intense. They have to be, Marcus said, lifting one and letting it fall with a dull slap. Normal tarps can't handle deep cleaning. Fish guts, blood, bottom paint. They eat through everything. These, they're military grade. He chuckled, the sound easy and unforced. Bleach is your best friend out here. Without it, your boat smells like a dead whale in August. Learned that the hard way. He pointed to a neat rack of fishing rods. Got more into deep-sea fishing since David. He always wanted to catch a marlin. I go now, for both of us. That's kind, Janine offered, struggling to match his ease. Actually, Marcus said, eyes lighting with an idea. You should come tomorrow. Weather's perfect. We'll head to where they found the phone. Maybe we'll find something more. Talk. Share memories. Janine hesitated, caught between suspicion and empathy. I'll think about it. No pressure. The offer stands. He checked his watch. Conference call in 20. Feel free to look around. Just pull the door shut on your way out. Alone again, Janine remained motionless. Everything she saw had a plausible explanation. Fishing gear, cleaning supplies, a man grieving his best friend. And yet, Elena's words echoed louder with every second. She pulled the door shut and returned to her car, more tangled in doubt than before. Was she chasing ghosts? Or had she just stepped inside a crime scene disguised as a memory? Moments later, Marcus returned, his face bright. You know what? The weather's perfect now. Let's go out. I've got my gear here. You can pilot. You've still got your license, right? Janine's eyes drifted to the harbor. I haven't sailed in years. It's like riding a bike, he said with a grin. Besides, the Sea Ray practically drives herself. I need this too. David was my brother in all but name. If there's any chance we can find something, anything, I have to try. The raw crack in his voice broke through her reserve. "Okay," she nodded. "Let's go." They moved toward slip 47. Janine retrieved her tote bag from the car, slipping in a manila folder of documents she hadn't yet opened. Marcus's boat, sleek and white with a distinctive blue stripe, waited like a ghost ship. He offered his hand. "Welcome aboard the Second Chance," David named her, said everyone deserves one. The irony bit into her chest. As Marcus readied his diving gear, Janine familiarized herself with the helm, the feel of the sea returning to her like a muscle memory. "Coordinates are locked in," Marcus said. "Just near Pescadero Point. Mind taking the wheel while I gear up?" "Of course." The water sparkled with a deceptive calm. Marcus moved methodically, checking tanks and regulators, calling gentle course corrections. It felt almost like a shared ritual. Two people searching for clarity among crashing waves. Midway out, Janine asked, "Can you take over? I want to look through these papers." "Take your time." She ducked into the cabin, spreading the documents out. Most were routine bills and insurance statements. But one binder stopped her cold. Strategic Expansion Initiative was printed boldly across a proposal marked with the Innovate Tech logo, dated 3 weeks before the disappearance. Her accountant's brain kicked into overdrive. London, Tokyo, Singapore, Sao Paulo, within 18 months, projected revenue in the hundreds of millions. But the risk? David's handwriting covered the margins. Too aggressive. What about current clients? Timeline impossible without sacrificing quality. The numbers chilled her. $3 million in capital for London alone. $5 million more for Asia. Failure in even one market would collapse the company. Then came the dagger. Proposed restructuring. If Marcus provided the capital, his ownership would jump to 70%. David, once equal partner, would be reduced to a minority. David's notes screamed protest. "Not what we agreed." "Need to think about future." Circled twice in red ink. "Family comes first." Janine gripped the papers, her hands trembling. The pregnancy would have sealed David's decision to walk away. Marcus had everything to lose: control, fortune, legacy. And David had everything to gain by leaving. If Meredith's announcement pushed him over the edge. "Everything okay down there?" Marcus called. "Fine," she replied, voice tight. She shoved the papers back into her bag, trying to silence her racing heart. Could it be? Could Marcus, David's closest friend, be capable of betrayal that deep? Nothing was proven, nothing concrete. But as she surfaced from the cabin, the sun glaring off the water, Janine knew one thing with certainty. She was closer to the truth. And maybe, just maybe, closer to danger too. Janine climbed back onto the deck, forcing her breathing into an even rhythm, though every nerve in her body was screaming. The sea shimmered under the fading sun, deceptively calm. Marcus stood at the helm, his focus fixed on the GPS. "Find anything interesting?" he asked without turning. Janine forced a small smile. "Just old bills, insurance stuff." He nodded, stepping away to unzip his wetsuit bag. "Water's perfect today. With any luck, we might find something to give you closure." She gripped the helm, staring out at the endless horizon. Was this the same man who had toasted with her family? Who grieved her sister? Or was he something far more sinister, hiding behind a mask of charm? She thought of Meredith's journal, of her hope that joy would heal, of a child meant to unite, but possibly used as the reason to destroy. The question swirled through her like the seabirds circling overhead. There were no answers here, only suspicion, growing heavier with each mile they drifted from shore. The GPS beeped. They had arrived. Marcus dropped anchor, the boat swaying gently in the open blue. "Perfect conditions," he said, retrieving his wetsuit. "Visibility should be 40 feet today." Janine watched him, anxiety pressing like a weight against her chest. She had to know, had to test him. "Actually, I did find something," she said casually. Business papers, expansion plans for Innovate Tech. Marcus froze. The shift in him was immediate. His warmth vanished like mist under sun. When he turned to face her, his eyes were void of empathy. "You couldn't leave it alone." "I don't know what you mean," she said, heart pounding. "Don't," he said sharply. "I see it in your eyes. You figured it out. The way you looked at me when you came back from the cabin. The way your hands are trembling." She instinctively moved toward the helm where the radio sat. But Marcus was faster. He yanked the handset from the mount and tore out the cords. In one smooth motion, he tossed the pieces overboard. "That won't be necessary," he muttered. From the gear bag, he pulled out a compact black pistol. His movements were practiced, terrifyingly precise. "Sit down," he ordered. "Hands where I can see them." Janine obeyed, her mind racing. No one knew she was out here. But in her jacket pocket, her phone. Keeping one hand visible, she triggered the emergency SOS by pressing the side button rapidly. A faint vibration confirmed activation. Coast Guard systems monitored GPS distress signals. She could only hope they'd respond in time. "Your phone," Marcus demanded. She slid it across the deck. Without looking at it, he tossed it into the water. "Such a shame," he said. "I actually liked you, Janine. You were the smart one. Sharp. But you knew when to keep your distance. You should have stayed away. Marcus, I don't understand. Stop. We're past the lies. You want irony? I thought bringing you out here would make me look innocent. Who revisits the scene of the crime with a witness unless they have nothing to hide? Brilliant, right?" His laugh was harsh, devoid of humor. "But I underestimated you. I should have remembered. You think everything through. Meredith was heart. You were logic. Marcus, please. It's unfortunate for you. Very unfortunate. But I've come too far. I won't let anyone tear it down, not even family." The boat rocked gently, a quiet sea hiding a storm. Janine kept her breathing steady, praying the SOS signal had gone through. But Marcus's grip on the gun tightened. Time was slipping. He leaned against the rail, staring beyond her. "You want the truth? Fine, you deserve that much." He closed his eyes, as if recalling a dream. "That night, I arrived at 7:30. Just like I said. I brought a bottle of Chateau Margaux, 2005 vintage, $2,000. Nothing but the best." Janine remained still, every breath calculated. They were thrilled to see me. Meredith had made paella. David was buzzing, said we were on the verge of greatness. Then she stood up, smiled that Meredith smile. She touched her stomach, said she was pregnant. The words hung in the air. 8 weeks. David lit up, picked her up, spun her. Already talking about slowing down, staying local, building a life. Marcus's eyes darkened. That was the moment. Everything I worked for, gone. 10 years of sacrifice. Innovate Tech, the expansion, the legacy I was building, all threatened by a baby. Janine swallowed hard. "So, you killed them?" Marcus's gaze didn't waver. "I did what I had to do." But before the horror of those words could sink in, a voice crackled over the water, a bullhorn amplified by a patrol boat now pulling into view. Red and blue lights flashed across the water's surface. "This is the U.S. Coast Guard. Remain where you are." Marcus snapped toward the sound, momentarily distracted. Janine lunged. She slammed her shoulder into his arm just as he aimed the gun. It flew from his hand, skidding across the deck. They both dove for it. But the Coast Guard was already boarding. 2 officers tackled Marcus, forcing him to the deck. Janine collapsed against the cabin wall, gasping, shaking, alive. Her SOS had worked. And Meredith could finally rest. Justice was coming on the tide. Janine's voice trembled, barely audible. "You poisoned them during their celebration." Marcus didn't flinch. His tone was clinical, detached. "I came prepared for multiple outcomes that night. In my jacket pocket, I had a vial of cyanide, colorless, odorless, efficient. I'd only planned to use it if David refused the expansion completely." The late afternoon sun cast a long, twisted shadow across the deck as he continued. They were so happy, laughing, holding hands. Meredith made tiramisu. I went into the kitchen to help with dessert and poured 3 glasses of dessert wine. 2 were laced. Janine felt the bile rise in her throat. We toasted to new beginnings, to the future. He gave a bitter laugh. They died within minutes, holding hands. It wasn't just the confession. It was the matter-of-fact cruelty, the business-like efficiency with which he described it. I wrapped them in tarps, the industrial ones, used diving weights, hauled them onto my boat. It was midnight, no moon, conditions were perfect. You dumped them. 2 miles past the reef, 400 feet down. No diver could ever reach them. I cleaned everything after, spent hours bleaching the house. Every trace, every dish, gone. It looked like they'd vanished. From his jacket, he pulled another vial. Same batch. I always keep some. You never know. You're insane, Janine whispered. Number just practical. He held out the vial toward her, gun still trained on her chest. It's your turn. No one will find you. You'll just be another tragedy. Another lost Caldwell. Janine's eyes darted to the horizon, a flash of white and orange. Coast Guard colors. He followed her gaze. His jaw clenched. Damn it, he hissed. Drink it, now. As he turned to assess the approaching cutter, Janine seized her only chance. She lunged. The vial flew, shattering against the railing. Marcus slammed her to the deck. She clawed at his arms as he dragged her toward the edge. No one's coming for you, he growled. But the engines roared louder. A voice boomed over the water. U.S. Coast Guard, hands in the air. Marcus looked up, momentarily distracted. Janine kicked the gun across the deck. Officers rappelled aboard. One tackled Marcus mid-lunge. The weapon skittered out of reach. You don't understand, Marcus screamed. She's lying. We were searching for bodies. He thrashed in the grip of the guards, cycling between rage and panic. 5 years! I built that company. They were going to ruin it all. His eyes found Janine's as they dragged him toward the cutter. The mask was gone. In its place, a desperate, broken man. You should have stayed away, he said. You should have left it alone. Then he was gone. The emergency room at Monterey General smelled of antiseptic and freshly mopped linoleum. Janine sat on the exam table, bruises blooming across her arms and neck. Detective Flores stood nearby, notebook in hand. Smart move, he said. Triggering the SOS, your GPS led them straight to you. Janine nodded, her voice hoarse. I pressed it the moment he pulled the gun. He never saw. No need to rush your statement, Flores offered. But Janine needed to speak, to release the storm churning inside her. She told him everything. Elena's secret, the expansion documents, Marcus's confession. He said he poisoned their wine, she whispered. They were celebrating the baby. Flores's expression darkened. He confirmed the same during interrogation. Broke completely, almost like he wanted to confess. A knock interrupted them. Another detective entered, whispered something. Flores's face went grim. Janine, he said carefully. We're processing Marcus's boat. Despite the bleach, our team found microscopic traces of blood in the deck seams. Preliminary DNA suggests a match to Meredith and David. Janine closed her eyes. There's more, he continued. His boat's GPS log shows it was anchored at the beach house dock until 2:15 a.m. Then it traveled to a point 2 miles past Pescadero Reef. He anchored there for 43 minutes. 400 feet of water, Janine whispered. Exactly what he said. We dispatched a recovery team. They've already found 2 bodies, wrapped in industrial tarps, weighted with his diving gear. Serial numbers match. The medical examiner suspects cyanide. Janine said nothing. We have enough for multiple counts of murder, attempted murder, and kidnapping. Marcus Ashford will never be free again. But there was no comfort in justice. Only absence. Janine reached for her tote. Inside, Meredith's journal. Damp but intact. She opened it to the final page. Words of hope, of joy. Her sister had believed the baby would bring healing. Instead, it had signed their death warrants. She knew something felt wrong that night, Janine whispered. She wrote about it, but she still wanted to believe in the good. Flores lowered his gaze. I'm sorry. Janine thought of the child who never had a name, of the life Meredith and David had planned. Bedtime stories, soccer games, all lost for one man's greed. Outside, rain tapped the window. Soft at first, then steady. A storm had come again to Monterey. Janine clutched the journal, holding her sister's words against her heart. The truth was known, but peace was still somewhere far beyond the waves.